say a story maybe before you start?
Let's pass to that. Well, a story we found out. I'll tell you a story we found out by Shiva. A story that I knew half of it. I didn't really know the other half. My father had a very big cheshek since forever. I can remember in the Kliyakal. Every Friday night he would go into shul. The first sefer he would take out is the Kliyakal. Very interesting meforshim. That brings him something in the Sichas. It's one of the meforshim on Chumash, and he would literally go through. And by Friday with this meal, he would always repeat something from the Kliyakal. Always something interesting. Wasn't nice, eh? My father used to travel very often to Prague, to Shecht. He was a Shecht in Vienna, but the cities and countries around hired him many times. He went to Riga many times, Latvia. He went to when communist Russia was still around, and to Ukraine. He was in Prague. He went very often to Prague, to Shecht for Balash. Mamash, I remember very often. One of the times Prague is full of kvadim, so he went. And he was in the Mesechus, and he sees that a bunch of shkotzim are hanging out and drinking, boys hanging out on the cave by the cave of the Kliyakal. He was shaken, but Kliyakal was a meforshim. I don't, that's actually, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know. Yeah, it's not, and he's buried in Prague, and my father saw this. He came home, he was shaken, he was totally shaken up when he came home. He took a achlata, and because of that, he will make sure to study the Sefer Kliyakal. So wasn't a thing like, I'm going to go chase them away and scream, and what can I do for the neshama? So the caver is going to be what's it called? Let me learn a Sefer. So for the rest of it, for as long as I remember, he would push it to study the Kliyakal as a kapada or something. That was my father in short. He took on something pneumistic, quiet, not fanfare, didn't write articles about it, didn't make Shabbatons, but just do the thing. You lived how long? How long ago? 1500?
16th century. The story with the Kliyakal is, I believe, where he was as a child. He was captive by a poritz. And the father he didn't have money to pay the poritz, and the poritz took his son. And the father gave him tzitzis and a yarmulke. And that, years later, when he found it's versteckt in a closet, and that's how he came back to Yiddishkeit. And so episodes.
Could be. After the finding of the story, there are two things I have to look more into the Kliyakal. And I was find out who the Kliyakal is. And father just had this, I remember this, a connection to the Kliyakal. No, haven't seen before. Every Friday night there was something about the Kliyakal.
He never told you the story?
He told I guess I was too young. He told someone because the story got out. My older brother, which is not much older than me, remembers the story. I don't remember ever hearing the story. I know that he went to Prague often. I know that he learned Kliyakal every Friday night. I don't know the rest of the story. Anyways, so Zayin for Leah. Yeah. Okay, Zog the Gemarrah. What are we doing? Tas Ahmed Base. We learned in the past Gemarrahs we discussed the idea that Yovel, Rosh Hashana for Yovel, starts on the first day of Tishrei. And the Gemarrah asks right away a question: how is that possible? We blow shofar of Yovel, we don't blow it on Echav Tishrei, we blow it on Yom Kippur. So how is it possible that you call the Rosh Hashana, Aleph Tishrei, the Rosh Hashana of Yovel? The Gemarrah goes into an explanation that there's an interim days, that the Rosh Hashana, there's three things that happen during Yovel. Slaves go back, get their freedom back, the Jewish slaves get their freedom back. Fields that are sold within the 50 years return to the original owner, and you blow shofar on Yovel. So it says that the fact that the slaves are being freed starts on Rosh Hashanah, and the 10 days of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, they are just like all the other people. They sit and eat and join in meals, and they put on a certain head covering. And Yom Kippur comes and blow shofar. That's when they go home, and that's when fields are returned. But the blowing shofar is not a main thing. It's just to tell us these 10 days are over. Okay, the Gemara goes through the whole thing. If we add 10 days at the end, 10 days at the end of the year as well. If you add 10 days in the beginning, you add 10 days. Anyways, now we're holding like this. The Gemara, the pasuk reads as such: "V'havarta shofar b'chodesh Teruah b'chodesh Shvi." In the 7th month, you should blow shofar. Be'asar l'chodesh, 10th day of the month, b'yom kippurim, taviu shofar al atzechem. Okay, so number one, we know you have to blow shofar. Then the pasuk continues. The Chumash continues. Next pasuk. 3 psukim, one after the other, and it says, "V'kedashtem mishnasach chamishim shana." You should sanctify the 50th years. Ukasim doy ba'az v'chol. Now you should call freedom for all the inhabitants of the world, of the land. And now what do we call it? Yovel he. This is considered yovel. Then the pasuk we have now Tkiyah Shofar. We have people returning to their homes. It says again that people return to their achuzah, to their land, which means and everyone returns to their family. So basically, we have blowing shofar. Then we have that freedom, that everyone has freedom. All the humans that are sold in slavery have freedom. And then and everyone returns to their ownership of their land. And then the pasuk says yovel hi again yovel hi. So it says twice yovel hi. Now, if we say that if we use the word he to say this is yovel, as soon as we say that, we're excluding something else. This is yovel, something else is not yovel. So therefore, the Gemarrah in the beginning of test try to understand what does not make yovel happen and what do you have to do in order to make yovel happen. The Gemarrah says there's 3 things: it's blowing shofar, releasing slaves, and returning the land. So there's a machlokes. The ט.ב-י.ב says that even if the land is not returned or shofar isn't blown, as long as the slaves are redeemed or returned, that's yovel. So yovel, he's like this. Yovel should be called the 50th year. This is yovel. If you redeem the slave, then it's yovel. If you return the field or not, that doesn't make a difference. If you blow shofar or not, doesn't make a difference. Yovel the he is coming to exclude, to tell you that this makes it yovel, and the other 2 things not necessarily make it yovel. That's the ט.ב-י.ב shita. So the most important thing according to ט.ב-י.ב is send home the slaves. Rabbi Yossi says yovel he. What is it telling you? You have to blow shofar. Shofar is the most important thing. What does the Gemarrah say? The Gemarrah says, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yossi? A logical reason. He says that it's far-fetched, but it is possible that in the span of 50 years, no one sold their field. And it is possible that in the span of 50 years, no one ever did an aveda that he couldn't pay back and therefore was sold as a slave. It's possible. It's far-fetched, but it's possible. That's logic number 1. And therefore, I want to attach yovel to something that will always be there, which is blowing shofar, rather than attaching it to something that's maybe it won't happen. Second reason is because a simple reason. Bezdin can blow shofar whenever they want, but Bezdin doesn't really have the ability to force someone to return the slaves, to force someone to return the field. So therefore, that's easy. So the Gemara asks, why do you have to 2 reasonings? Because not having a slave or not selling a field in 50 years is a very far-fetched idea. Therefore, the ט.ב-י.ב adds another one. Okay, so now we understand the logic of the ט.ב-י.ב. Why blowing shofar is what makes yovel. He makes yovel. What constitutes yovel? Blowing shofar. Now, ט.ב-י.ב says that no. ט.ב-י.ב says that only redeeming the slaves, letting the slaves go home, releasing the slaves makes it yovel. Blowing shofar, if you did or not, still yovel is still going to be there. To return the fields, whether you did or not, yovel is going to be there. But if you did not send the slaves home, that year will not be called. We will not be sanctified to be called yovel.
Yeah, but yovel comes anyway. Yovel is every 49th day. Well, 50.
The year comes, but it says v'kidashtem. You have to do something in order to sanctify it. So the ט.ב-י.ב says, what do you do? Blow shofar. The ט.ב-י.ב says, what do you do? Send the slaves home. If those 2 things didn't happen, according to each opinion, it's not yet.
Meaning, even if they didn't do it because nobody ended up selling themselves as a slave, then
the ט.ב-י.ב doesn't agree with it. ט.ב-י.ב obviously says that it's not possible that no one sold themselves as a slave.
No, I'm talking about according to the Mount Honor that says that you have to do it.
You have to sell.
Okay.
According to one that says you have to blow shofar. So yeah, if you didn't sell slaves, okay, so yovel is still yovel. All you need to do is blow shofar. According to the ט.ב-י.ב, you have to redeem slaves. And you're going to say maybe there's going to be a 50-year span that no one is going to be sold? That's not possible. That's not possible. Someone at the edge of the world is going to have a slave. Okay. What?
Someone in Greenland, maybe?
Yeah. Even though it says that Vavatam Shub Shaifa B'chol Artzechem, it has to be an Atzisrael. And the Gemara is going to say soon that it's Yovel exists in the entire world as long as it exists in Atzisrael. So it could be that somewhere in Greenland, someone has a Jewish guy owns a slave, another deed, that he will go up. Okay, so now the Gemarrah today, what we're going to discuss is to understand Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning, why he says that sending home slave is the most important thing. So, we're holding, if you see the Gil in a Shas in some Gemaras, scoot over to the Gemara, it says, Ellen Rabbi Yehuda, my time Amakah. It's like maybe 15 lines from the top. What's the reasoning? Rabbi says that the most important thing is sending home slaves. Amakah, the pasuk says, the answer is like this. It says 3 psukim, and it says like this: you should call freedom for all the inhabitants of the land. And then the pasuk says, Yovel he. So the pasuk says first, blow shofar. Then it goes over to the next pasuk, call freedom for all the inhabitants, Chol Yeshveh. And then the pasuk says Yovel he. So what does it say? Yovel he is coming. We said the he is coming to exclude something. This is Yovel, nothing else. So what are we saying? This that I just mentioned, that the fact that slaves go free, that makes Yovel. So again, the pasuk says blow shofar, one pasuk. Next pasuk says every slave should go free, and then the pasuk says Yovel. This makes Yovel. That's why the Yehuda says that Dafka sending home slaves makes it Yovel. How does he call it? How does the Gemarrah call it? The Gemarrah names it like this: we have 3 psukim. We have number 1. We have blowing shofar. Number 2, we have redeeming the slaves. Right after redeeming the slaves, it says Yovel he, and then we have another pasuk about the fields going back. So this Yovel he, what precedes Yovel he? Right? What precedes immediately right before Yovel he? The fact that slaves go home free. Kosim doya ba'as is that the slaves go free. Right after that it says Yovel he. So we said, Rabbi Yehuda says, when there is an exclusion, when you want to learn something, it can only go to the words before. Yovel he is an exclusion. It applies only to the words you just mentioned. What did you just say? That the slaves have to go free. So I'm telling you, when does Yovel become Yovel? Yovel he, this is what makes Yovel, only when the slaves go free. And we don't apply the Yovel he lifnei fanav 2 items before. What was the item before the eating of sending home the slaves? That was the fact he blowing shofar. So Rabbi Yehuda says blowing shofar is not important because we don't apply the exclusion of Yovel he to 2 psukim before, to 2 subjects before. We only apply to the immediate subject attached to it, and we also don't apply to the subject after Yovel he, which is talking about the return of the land. Okay, so the Gemara says, Mikra nidash lefanav veloy lifnei fanav. The mikra, the pasuk, you can darshan it, you can learn from it lefanav immediately, right before when it says Yovel he, lifnei fanav, not when it talks about blowing shofar. Okay, so the Gemara asks, tell me, what does freedom mean? Everyone says that droid is means chedas, means freedom. Where does that come from? It's a new word that the Torah mentioned. We never had this before. Always the Torah calls it chedos. Where does the Torah show that it's chedos? Rabbi Yehuda said, what is the lashon doya? It's made of 2 words. Kemedaya bedaya. Live like everyone else lives. You can live where everyone else wants to live. You can live wherever you want to live. Kemedaya bedaya means live wherever you want. There's a freedom of living wherever you want. That's good. And another part, and you can make any country that you want to have any business, you schlep your schayda there and sell it. And that's why communism, not even communism, but really the truth is today's world, that we have sanctions on certain countries, is not complete chaos. It's a moral issue to make business with a nation, a country that kills its inhabitants, Sudan, Iran, or whatever it is, but you're restricting me. It's a moral issue, it's an ethical issue, but you can't. It's almost like I say, it's not the same, but it's almost like a seatbelt. There was a whole argument about if you don't wear a seatbelt, is it the law says you have to wear a seatbelt, but why do you have to wear a seatbelt? It's for your own safety. You're not. Very rarely do you hear a story that someone wasn't wearing a seatbelt, crashed into a tree, flew out, and then hit another guy and killed the other guy. You don't hear such stories. So the seatbelts. So again, the government wants to tell me what I should do for my own safety. I think I should be old enough and to make my own decisions. Maybe tell the insurance how to cover it. There was an argument about that. But in any case, it's the same thing also. You want true freedom is total freedom. I can make business whatever I want. I can do what I want. I can live wherever I want. That's Lashon Chedos. That's the oil. Okay. So now we had the Machlokes of Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda says that you have to send out the slaves. Rabbi Yosef says you have to blow shofar, and there's a third opinion that you have to have all three. Without doing all three, nothing happens. The Chacham say you have to have all three. Send the slaves home, return the fields, and blow shofar. And the Rambam, if you see the Aleph, the small Aleph, points us to the Rambam. The Rambam says, yes, indeed, you have to have all three items in order to make it yovel. So yovel, he is coming to tell you have to make all three things. Kasaval, because Rabbanan says, number one, we disagree with this idea that there's no one in the world that doesn't have a slave, or no one in the world that doesn't have a field that needs to return. Disagrees with the logic. And he says also with the other thing, Rabbi Yehuda says that we don't apply a limud in a pasuk of lifnei fanav. He says I disagree with that. Kasavi mikra nidish lifanav velifnei fanav lachanav. Yovel he can be learned in all three. So it's not necessary. Yovel he means what makes it yovel? Blowing shofar, releasing the slaves, and returning the fields. So the Gemarrah is going to ask, yovel he itself is a lashon of exclusion. V'ksiv yovel, it says yovel, it's coming to exclude something. So it says something, the extra yovel he is not teaching to exclude. That even outside Israel, you have to keep yovel. That's clear in pasuk. Everything has to do with Israel. And for the Gemarrah, no. What's the order that's coming to teach us? Bizman shenoig doer ba'aretz. When you have yovel and atzasal, noig b'chutz la'aretz. Bizman she'en noig ba'aretz, en noig b'chutz la'aretz. So, in summary, yovel is an entire world, and yovel exists only in the entire world if atzasal has yovel. In order to make it yovel according to the Chacham, you have to have all three. According to Rabbi Yosef, you have to have just blowing shofar. According to Yehuda, you have to send them the slaves. But that's the idea of yovel. And when is the Shana of Yovel? Like we said in our Mishnah, the Shana of Yovel is a Shana at the Alaf Tisha, even though you blow shofar only on Yom Kippur. Okay. There was a story of the pilots that a Yid went over to him and wanted it was close to the pilots, he wanted to be hired as a Baltkeya. So he wants to be the Baltkeya in the shul. He wants to be the Baltkeya in the shul. And he went to one of the pilots. The pilot said, okay, I'll make it happen. Goes over to the people, and the people saw that the pilot is not going to be convinced. Otherwise, says, you know what? No problem. He'll blow tkiyas on Yom Kippur. So the pilot's very happy. Good, he arranged it. So the Yid finds out that he's blowing tkiyas on Yom Kippur, and so he goes back to the pilots. So here I have 100 times I have to blow. Here's like one little thing, and everyone runs out to eat. Says the pilot, finished. Once you have the shofar in hand, blow as much as you want. So that's the tkiyas shofar. What's it? Blow as much as you want. Blows and blows. Anyways, this reminds me of there's a Rebbe went for Tashlich, and he's shaking off his tzitzis and his pockets by the Tashlich, by the water. And as soon as it's over, the Chassidim are jumping into the water trying to grab. The Gabber screams, "Das doch nicht schlagen." There's enough for everyone there. There's enough for everyone. So, okay. So now we finished the Yovel part. The Mishnah continues and says that Aleph Tishrei is also the Rosh Hashana and Tia for planting. Now, before we start this Gemarrah, start like this. We have halacha that when you plant a new tree, you have the concept of Allah. You have the prohibition of eating the fruits of the tree for the first 3 years. Okay, that's the prohibition of Allah. Now, this prohibition includes not only planting a brand new tree, but if you have a bush, and in this case, the best scenario is a vine, a grapevine that's fully grown, and now you take one of the branches and you push that branch down, you bend it over, and you plant it in the ground, and you let the end stick out a little bit, what happens is that eventually the branch that's in the ground, it's still attached, it's in the ground, will catch on roots and will grow its own tree, and then you cut off from the source. That's called mavdich. That's called mavdich. In English, it's called in French. I call it. I looked it up to make sure it's pinier, and in English it's propagation or something like that. Propagation. Yeah. So, anyways, that's the.
German now.
That's way beyond.
Geffen, or could be by-
No, it could be anything. I would say by Geffen is easy because the Geffen is small, easy. Yeah.
No, they do branches trees. You make it out in the thing, you bend it in, and it's
No, but the vine is anywhere on the ground. So
Right. So that's the easiest way to do it. Then there's something called grafting. Right, which we know by Estek, the idea of grafting of
Lubavitchers are mumchim on ground.
well, hundreds. This comes to what's it called? We know that the grafting is basically you make a hole in a tree, and you stick in another branch of another tree, and then that apparently makes the fruits of both trees of the tree grow better. And so basically, grafting technically is grafting two kalaim is an issue. Two different fruit trees is an issue. You can't do that. But when you graft in a way that it's allowed, so netia planting goes in all three. Both it goes on when you actually plant a new tree, when you seed or you plant a new tree, or when you're mavdich, when you do what's it called again? Propagation, or when you do grafting. As soon as it catches on, it's considered a netia, and on all three the halachas of Arla applies. So if you do a tree, bend it over and let the one branch stick out, when this starts growing, even though this original tree may be 100 years old, you start counting 3 years for this. Sending grafting, once the branch catches on and starts growing its trees on that branch, it starts, once it catches on, so you start counting 3 years.
I thought that's awesome. For Edom,
Yeah,
that's
it's when it's kalayim, it's awesome.
awesome.
A guy could do it for you. A guy could do it.
A Jew could buy a grafted tree. And then
That's why we can buy limes. Limes is, I think, citron and something else. It's by all the different fruits that are. Huh? Yeah, there's all these mixed fruits. As long as a guy did. Okay. Tanabon echad aneteya vechad amavlich vechad amakiv. All these three things: planting, grafting, and the other thing. Erev Shviz. If you do it right before Shemitah, Shloishim Yoim Lifnei Hashana, 3 days for Hashana, also Hashana. So you have to have 3 years, otherwise 3 years. How do you count 3 years? The moment you plant it, technically then you should start counting 3 years. So the Gemarrah says no. As long as you planted 30 days before Hashana, those 30 days will be considered a year. So you planted it 30 days before Hashana, comes to Hashana, this is year 1, this is year 1, to Rosh Hashana, this is year 2, okay, this is year 3, and here, it's already in the 4th year. 4th year has its own halacha. It's called ט.ב-י.ב. ט.ב-י.ב is basically just like Maseches Rosh Hashana, where it's ט.ב-י.ב means the planting on the 4th year. What happens is, you have to take it to the Beis HaMikdash, you have to eat it b'tahava, you have to be pure when you eat it, and if not, you can redeem it for money, bring it. Basically, it's like Maseches Rosh Hashana. Once another year passes by, from then on, you can do whatever you want, you can eat wherever you want, etc. So usually, you have to wait full 5 years. The blatt here tells you if you planted at least 30 days before Rosh Hashana, at least 30 days before Rosh Hashana, those 30 days will be counted as a year. So now you're really only waiting 2 years and 30 days for you to be able to eat it. The first 3 years you're not allowed to eat it. Nothing. It's garbage. It's garbage. The end of the 3rd year, the ט.ב-י.ב, you're allowed to eat it. Only by Semitic, but allowed to eat it. So the 30 days is important because the 30 days is what makes the year. So now here's another thing. If this first year Shemitah, so the 30 days you planted it, here's first Hashana, here starts Shemitah. So I guess if I planted it before 30 days, then we assume that the tree, the planting, it caught roots started growing. It's there to stay. So it's not really growing. It's going to grow in Shemitah, but it's already there before Shemitah. Therefore, it's fine. It's fine. If you plant it in such a short time that the plant did not make roots yet, then the roots is what makes it stay. That will happen in the Shemitah, and that's a problem. We know that you have to add. We already had this Gemarrah last week that you have to add. When it comes to Shemitah, you have to add before Netios of the 6th year that are growing in Shemitah. So it says the time that you have to give is 30 days. According to this Braisa, you have to give 30 days right before Hashanah. So the last time you can plant anything is Lamed Elv. Lamed Av is the last time you can plant it. Well, really, Chavtes Av, this last time you can plant, then you have to count 30 days. Comes Hashanah, that's the cutoff time. So here's things. If it's a regular year, if Shemitah is anywhere there, and you planted it within the 30 days, these 5 days that you planted it's not going to be considered a year. You count it from here, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If you planted it before 30 days, then you count 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then we'll go on. But if this is Shemitah, you have an additional problem. You have to literally go and uproot whatever you planted because you can't have it grow in Shemitah. So this is the if you planted it at least 30 days for Shana, also Shana, it's considered 1 year. Number one, so legabe Allah, it's considered 1 year, so you have year 1 counted already. And if
that piece of Gemarrah I missed, you did it?
oh wow, I did. Yeah, I missed a whole piece over here. Whoops. Let's go back. Ulanatiyah. The Mishnah said that the Rosh Hashana Leilan Shana for planting is a few lines before. I just literally missed.
You started saying it.
I went over to that next 2 dots. Minolan. That's why you have to keep your finger in the Gemarrah, like my teachers to say, right? Natiyah. Minolan. Where do we know that Rosh Aleph Tishre is the Rosh Hashana for planting? The Chsiv, Shalosh, Shana Marelim, the 3 years, the tree should be considered Orla. Uchsiv, and it says another pasuk about Shana Levi in the 4th year, is going to be Neta Avoy, it has Kodesh Hilulim, you have to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. And Shana Chamishis, you can do whatever you want. So it says Shana Hovis, V'yaliv Shana Metisha. You learned Shana Agzer Shabbat. Agzer Shabbat we had a few times in the past. That just like it says Shana here, and it says Shana by Aleph Tisha, it says Shana, and that Shana goes in Aleph Tisha. Therefore also Shana Levi, when does Shana Levi start? Aleph Tisha. So the entire count of Allah is in Rosh Hashana. The Chsiv Meresh Shana, a question that we already had. It says Shana by Nisan as well. V'ligma Shana Shama Nisan. The Chsiv Rishon Lachem Echad Shana. It says by Nisan also. So maybe say that Allah is the Rosh Hashana for Netiyah is on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And for the Gemarrah Simcha answer we had, done in Shana She'enim Mechabadashim and Shana She'enim Mechabadashim. When you make a Gzeh Shava, if it says just years and it doesn't mention months, then learn it from another pasuk. With just it brings just the word years, not the months. And here by Shana Levi it says Shana, it doesn't say Chodashim. And by Shana Batisha it says just Shana. But by Nisan it says Chodshei Shana. It also mentions Chodshim. So again, it's a very straightforward question answer. The fact that that Aleph Tisha is a Rosh Hashana for planting, we see from the pasuk Shalosh Shana Ma'elim, and it says later on about Shana Avis, and we say Gzeh Shana, just like Shana by Rosh Hashana. When it says Shana, it means Aleph Tisha. So by Allah also Shana means Aleph Tisha. Okay, that's the limit. How do we know that it's Allah? So now we're going to the Gemarrah that we explained already, that there's 3 types of planting: grafting, and when you bend over the branch into the ground and it starts growing roots and making another tree. And each one of them, when you do that, when you graft, or when you bend over the branch, or when you plant, you start a count from 3 years. As soon as it starts growing, you start counting 3 years. Allah. So the Mishnah says like this: if someone plants or someone bends over the branch of someone that grafts a tree, if it is Erev Shvius, if he does that 30 days before the Shemitah year starts, Erev Shvius, 30 days of Shana, those 30 days are going to be counted a full year. So like we said before, that Allah you have to have 3 years. So the 30 days would be considered year 1. Then Hashanah comes, it will be considered year 2. Next Hashanah will be considered year 3. The next Hashanah will be considered year 4. And then has the halachas of Netaravoy, we have to eat in the Beis HaMikdash. Following Rosh Hashanah is year 5, and you can eat it as wherever you want. But that is as long as you planted it at least 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. If you planted it within the time period, it's not good. In addition, When it comes to Shemitah, if you planted it 30 days before Shemitah started, then the tree or whatever you planted took roots, and it's not considered as that you planted it during Shemitah. Even though it grows during Shemitah, it's not considered planting in Shemitah, and therefore, the Shemitah comes, you're allowed to leave it in the field. But if you planted it within 30 days, and the roots are only catching on, or they're only growing the roots really in Shemitah, then you have to uproot the tree. So also if it's at least 30 days, you're allowed to let the tree grow in Shvi'is. If you planted it less than 30 days, Lifnei Rosh Hashana, the also Hashana, it's not considered a full year for Allah, and you have to uproot it. Okay? Now, if you planted it 30 days before, if you planted a tree 30 days before, so that would be considered year 1. Then goes another year. Okay, that's year 2. Rosh Hashana to Rosh Hashana is another year, year 2. Second Rosh Hashana comes, it's year 3. Now the third Rosh Hashana comes, and now trees are growing after the third Rosh Hashana. What do you do with the tree, with the fruits? Not trees. The fruits are growing after the third Rosh Hashana. So now we're already in year number 4. If anything grows from Rosh Hashana until ט.ב-י.ב, asur and ט.ב-י.ב. If anything grows in that time period, it's awesome. Why? So here's the thing. There's two concepts. There's a netia, means planting. When is a plant still called a plant? When it's small. A sapling is a small thing. When do you start calling it an ilon, a tree? After 3 years. Okay? So now you have 30 days. You plant the tree 30 days before. It's a sapling still. Okay, year 1. This is year 1. This is year 2. This is year 3. And now you can call, after Rosh Hashana, you can start calling it ilon, a tree. Because 3 years passed. That's what you have to have. Now we can call it a tree. However, we have another Rosh Hashana. ט.ב-י.ב, Rosh Hashana Ilonis. That has to pass, according to the blatt, before you can eat the fruits. Now that it's a tree, you have to have a Rosh Hashana. It's Rosh Hashana pass. In order to take it out from Adela, it's Rosh Hashana has to pass, because now it's a different gather. Now it's a tree. It's in its 4th year.
It didn't complete the 4th year.
No, it didn't complete the 4th year. It's already in its 4th year. It should be not to the voy. The blatt is telling you, because now it's called an ilon, and Rosh Hashana Ilonis is only 15 b'Shvat. You have to wait 15. Peres and Tiyazu soon at ט.ב-י.ב b'Shvat. In what? In
Normally you never have a spell, but if the tree was planted normally, but it passed 3 years, then we call it Elon, and then you wouldn't pay us wouldn't be outside on your later would be Elon. So you wouldn't have a spell.
so if you plant the tree on Rosh Hashana,
Only 30 days before Hashana you have a spell. It's the situation.
yeah, the machlokes on the shaydim.
After 3 years.
Right.
If
So
you really took 3-4 years, maybe it's only just trying to pay us. If you otherwise, if you had
correct. So one second. So if the actually trying to speak about this, if you planted not 30 days, if you planted, let's say in Adar, and then not Adar, let's say you planted the Cheshvan. So Cheshvan is year 1, Cheshvan the other year 2, Cheshvan here year 3. Technically, according to some opinions in the Shainim, as soon as the 3 full years pass by, even though it's not ט.ב-י.ב yet, you'll have to eat it. Most of the Shainim disagree and says even then you have to wait till ט.ב-י.ב. If you plant it afterwards, for sure you have to wait till ט.ב-י.ב. But here it's giving you the least amount of time is 30 days. If you plant it at least 30 days before, you still have to go to ט.ב-י.ב. The Gemarrah says, what does that mean? Basically, the days between Rosh Hashana and 15 b'Shvat, so if it's right here, so year 1, 2, 3, right here, these 2.5 months, 3.5 months, it would still be considered Allah. Because this is Adar, so it's leaving from Adar, it's considered Adar. If it's a year later, so once Rosh Hashana passes a year later, you can eat it in Beis Hamikdash, but you cannot eat it at home. So if anything grows after the 4th Rosh Hashana, until that ט.ב-י.ב, you have to eat it in the Beis Hamikdash. Only afterwards, you're a free man. You can do whatever you want. So okay? The machlokes here, whether you gain 7 between Chabashas and B'Shvat. Basically, what happens is, because you planted it 30 days before, you're gaining technically 11 months, right? Technically 11 months. But according to the Cheshvan, basically, you have to go from Aleph Tishrei. That's one. So that's basically Aleph Tishrei. You're going the full year here, and here you have to go Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, and half of Shvat. Sorry, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevis, and half of Shvat. So you're not getting a full year. You're only gaining 7.5 months. According to some opinion, 7. But basically, that's the idea that you don't. If you planted at least 30 days before, you're gaining. You either 7.5 months or you're getting a full year, according to different opinions. But you're gaining. How do you know this fact that you, if the fruits that grow between the third Rosh Hashana and that third Chamish Asar B'Shvat, the fruits will still be considered Allah, or when the fruits grow between the fourth Rosh Hashanah and the fourth Chamish Asar B'Shvat, it would still be considered ט.ב-י.ב, the fourth year. Some people say that it's really, this is a Biana statement. It says in Pasuk. What does it say in Pasuk? In the Pasuk it says, if you look, when you come to the land, and you plant any tree to eat, for 3 years you have to consider it forbidden fruit. 3 years you cannot eat. Then it says like this: instead of saying Shana Bashana Levis in the 4th year, it says Uba Shana Levis, and in the 4th year. What's the end? It's a new thing. You count the 3 years. 4th year is something else. Why does it say Uba Shana Levis? Then it continues next pasuk also. Bashana Levis is considered Kodesh Elulim. That's called ט.ב-י.ב. Uba Shana Chamishis. Then it continues again Uba Shana, and in the 5th year again Bashana Chamishis. What's the extra vav? Vav is always connecting. It's connecting to what's before. Zog the Gemarrah. It's connected to before. When you're standing in the 4th year, it's connected to the 3rd year. You're standing in the 4th year, but it's still connected to the 3 years before. That's Ubashana. Sometimes you stand already in the 5th year. You stand in the middle of Tishrei of year number 5. But it's still kind of Uvashana Chamishis, Uvashana Vis that's connected here before.
It's talking about that time till Tu B'Shvat.
Yeah, the Chamish Asar B'Shvat. Okay, so that's an interesting Gemarrah that you have to have at least 30 days before, and as long as you have 30 days before, that will be counted year 1, year 2, year 3, and then in the 4th year you have to wait. Now, the idea of 30 days. What is the idea of 30 days? Why after 30 days? So we said the idea of 30 days because then the roots catch on and it starts growing roots and the tree stays, or whatever you're planting has an achiza, it says something. But there are, maybe the reason 30 days is because 30, not mitzad the root, but mitzad the count. We said, we already learned by Melachim that 1 day in the year is considered a year. Here, it seems like maybe the reason is not roots, but the reason is that 30 days is considered a year. And that's the Gemarrah. Maybe let's say that this Mishnah, this Bryce is not according to the Meir. What's the problem? Let it not be according to the Meir. The issue is, if we can avoid having a machloikas in a Bryce or a Mishnah, we try to do whatever we can not to have a machloikas. And therefore the Gemarrah always asks, maybe let's say it's not a Meir. The Gemarrah is going to try every possible way to explain it that it goes according to the Meir, because I don't want to make a machloikas if not unnecessarily. If it goes according to the Meir, a Meir says you don't need 30 days. Nothing to do with planting, nothing to do with roots. It's 1 day is considered a year, and 30 days is definitely considered a year. But now that he said he needs 30 days, it can't be the Meir. Why do we know that Meir says the Tanya? Whenever the Torah says par, you have to bring a bull, an ox, as a korban. When it says par, how old is that? So the Gemarrah says, when it says stam par, it doesn't say an age. Ben esrim va'aba chodesh has to be 24 months for yoyim echad. Why? Because we will see soon an egel as a calf is until 1 year old. For the 2nd year of his life, it is considered a ben bakal. That's what the title uses it, the son of a bakal. And when it's 3 years old, it's called a pal. But the machloikas is here, the machloikas of Loza and Rameir is going to be, when do you count it as 3 years old? Rameir says, as long as it went into the 3rd year, it's already considered a 3 years old. Rabbi Loza says, no, it needs to be 24 months and another month. Rabbi Loza oime ben esrim v'arba chodesh ve'lamed yoim. So Rabbi Lezer requires an additional 30 days to be considered a year. Why? Shahoya Meir would say, Kol makom shenema egel, but every time the Torah says egel, calf, stam, ben shana, it's a year old. Ben bakal, if it says ben bakal, ben shtaim, 2 years old. Pang, ben shalish. Now the question is only, can you call, does it have to be a complete 3 years? That says no.
30 days.
It's a Meir says 24 months and a day. The Abelazar says 3 years is called 24 months and 30 days. So this blatt technically goes better according to the Abelazar than a Meir. The Meir says that you have to have 1 day is enough. And here the blatt requires us to have 30 days. Sagt the Gemarrah, okay, very nice. But no, not necessarily. I feel you could say that this blatt goes according to the Meir. Why? What happens is, how do you count the bull? It's born, and you want it to go out from being an egel, a calf. So at the end of the first year, you take it out of the category of egel. Then you count another year, and you want to take it out of the category of ben bakal. At the end of that, you want him to enter the category of a pal. You say 1 is enough. So the Meir says, when do I say that 1 day is considered enough? At the end of an count. At the end, I want to take the last. I'm going to the last category. I want to go to the last thing. At the end of this count, 1 day should be enough. But at the beginning of a count, no. Technically, I'll make it the other way. 1 day old is considered an egel. As soon as it becomes 2 years old, it's considered a pal. No, in the beginning we don't say that. In the beginning it has to be a full thing. At the end, it can be a day. So the same thing also in our blatt, where it says 30 days. In our blatt, it talks about the beginning of planting. You planted a tree. This is the beginning. The beginning count. Yes, 1 day is not enough. I agree with Abelazar. You have to have 30 days. So the blatt could be that Meir. When does that Meir say that 1 day is considered a year? At the end of an account, but not in the beginning. And by the planting, it was the beginning. Zot the Gemarrah. You could say it's a Meir. When does the Meir say Yoim Echad B'Shana Choshev Shana that 1 day is considered a full year? B'Soif Shana. When it's at the end of the count, at the end of the year. But B'Chila Shana, in the beginning of the count of the years, Loi. Okay? So the Meir is beautiful. Amar Rava doesn't let down. No, it doesn't make sense. It brings a question from Nida. Nowadays we know that the Nida is if a woman gets a period. So let's say a woman gets a period, Motzei Shabbos after Havdalah, or as soon as Motzei Shabbos comes in, you count 5 days, right? That's according to our calendar today. You count Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then she can make a bdika, and then a week later she can go to mikvah. In the days of the Chumash, the days of old, it was much different. It was 7 days, a 7-day period. You got your period on Motzei Shabbos. You counted 7 days. As long as on the 7th day you're clean, go to mikvah and you're done. But here we know also, according to us, the count of 5 days is the same if she gets a period Motzei Shabbos or she gets a period Sunday afternoon right before Shkia. If she gets a period Sunday right before Shkia, you count Sunday as day 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If she gets a period Motzei Shabbos, you can't count Sunday as day 1. So we see, by Nida, we see that a moment in the beginning of the count, not the end of the count, in the beginning of the count, is there's a what's it called? So but and in the end, it's very clear. It says, let's say she gets a period Shabbos afternoon. So it says you should count 7 days. Maybe you should count Shabbos afternoon. She should be able to go to mikvah 7 days. So no, the Torah says no. It has to be complete 7 days, which means you have to count right after and till the end. So at the end, we don't say a little bit is considered a full. At the end, we count the full thing. So here we see, just like the story of Netiah, you planted the tree 30 days before. A little bit before is considered a full, and not so. Let's see in the Gemarrah. V'lav kal v'chomer, is it not a kal v'chomer? Oh man, Nida. By Nida, what do we see? She'ein tchilas hayom oila b'seifa. At the end of the count, of her shiva of the 7 days, the beginning of the day is not counted as a full day. You have to go count the entire 7th day in order to go to mikvah. But you say soif hayom oila b'tchilasa. The end of the first day is counted as a full day. So we see in the beginning a little bit is counted as full. So if you say that by a day, for sure you should say it by a year. Shana, a year sheyom echad oila b'soif. You say by the end that 1 day is considered a full year by the pal, Wouldn't you say that one day in the beginning should also the same thing? If neither you say it's like that for anything else, but if you say a year by planting or by the pot, it should be the same. So therefore, Rabbi says no, it can't be that meir. That meir would have to say that it's one day, not shloishim yom. The blatt says 30 days. The meir would say one day is enough. So the Gemarrah counters back and says, 1 second. So you say that meir doesn't work out. So you want to say it's Ablaza? It doesn't work either. Ablaza would require 30 days and 30 days. Why? You want to say there's Ablaza that says that the pot is considered a pot 24 months and 30 days. This is what the third. This is what the blatt is. This is who the blatt is.
The blatt is about a par or about planting?
No, the blatt. Yes, but who is the same man? Who is the author of that blatt?
Of which one? Shvius?
Of the shvius.
Okay.
That says 30 days. You would say it's Ablaza. Ablaza says that a pot is considered an ox. When is if 30 days pass, it's considered the third year. So all you need is 30 days to call it a year. So the Gemarrah says no. You need, for according to Ablaza, you need 30 days and another 30 days, 60 days in total. Why? That none. A noitin ven mavrichin ven malkivin el shvius. Right again. Before Shemitah, you're not allowed to plant a new tree, you're not allowed to graft a tree, and not allowed to bend over a tree propagation. Right. Not propagate a tree into making a new branch. How long? You can't do it less than 30 days. And if you did it, you have to uproot it. That's what Rabbi says. Rabbi says, so Rabbi says here you have to have at least 30 days. Rabbi says, if you do a grafting and it doesn't catch on within 3 days, it's not considered. So Rabbi says basically, all you need is 3 days before Hashanah. If you plant it 3 days before Hashanah, if you graft it 3 days, it's good enough. So Rabbi only requires 3 days before. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, shtei Shabbosos. Ve'omer Rabbi Nachman explains according to all three opinions that you need 30 days, 3 days, or 2 weeks. He says, according to the opinion that says you need 30 days, really, you need 30 and 30. Why? Because he says that according to the ב-י.ב, it says 30 days. It takes 30 days for the plant to grow roots. Only after that, once the roots are growing for 30 days, that's when it's considered planted. The ב-י.ב says it takes 3 days to plant. It takes 30 days to make roots, but another 3 days is needed for it to really catch on. According to the Shimon of Yossi, that said you need 2 weeks. You need again 30 days. The roots should start growing, and then you only need 2 weeks to really catch on. So every single opinion that we mentioned, 30 days, 3 days, or 2 weeks, you have to have an additional 30 days. So how can you say Ablaza it says 30 days is enough? Is Ablaza according to Rav Nachman over here? Ablaza would need 60 days, 30 for it to grow roots, and another 30 for the roots to catch on. You need 2 weeks and 30 days. Okay, so maybe it's not a blatt, so maybe it's a ב-י.ב. Maybe if you want to say it's called ב-י.ב, no, you can't say the blatt is ב-י.ב because gimel or shloishim, but you need 30 and another 3. El oilam, we go back a meir. The Mishnah is the meir. The issue that you have with a meir is that you only need 1 day, not 30 days. So it's very simple. No, when does a meir say 1 day is enough? According to counted a year. But here we don't talk about counting years. We're talking about for it to grow roots and the roots should catch on. The meir agrees you have to have 30 days. The meir agrees roots take 30 days. And that's why our blatt says 30 days. So the meir would say 30 days. Let's just finish this. Lamed days it needs for the roots to grow and catch on. Yeah, to take roots. Yeah. So now the Gemarrah says basically you need 30 days to take roots, and what? So we mentioned in the beginning there's 2 constants, there's 2 things in this Gemarrah: whether you can maintain the tree because of Shemitah, and whether it's considered a full year because of Allah. So for Allah, 1 day is enough to be counted a year. For Shemitah, you need 30 days. The Gemarrah really asks then you need 30 days and 1 day, 31 days, 30 days, 31 days. The first 30 days for it to catch roots, so it's not considered an issue for Shemitah, and 1 day for it to be considered 1 year of Allah. So the Gemarrah, Yachal Lamed Aleph Miboye, You need 31 days. The 30th day can be counted both for it to fully catch roots and also for it to be considered a full year, and therefore it's the other is not an issue.